All right, a very good morning to you. It's good to see you on the second day of December 2024. We're almost at the end of the year. So happy new month and happy new week to all of you who are watching us this morning. I hope that you're having a better start to the day. My name is Winnie Lubembe and the show is Your World. And we're continuing with our series on 16 days of activism. But today we'll take a different, I would say, route, but still on a conversation that still matters, and it's still matters when we're talking about 16 days of activism, and this is on gender responsive procurement. And I know most of you are looking at me like, gender responsive procurement, what exactly is that? Do not worry, because the panel that we have today will help us really understand that and why it matters, and especially in this day and age, and even as we're talking about 16 days of activism. So you want to stick around until the end of the conversation to understand more on why this conversation should matter to you and to me and to everybody else, because procurement, again, it plays a vital role in sustainable development and gender equality, and aligning with SDG 5 on gender equality and women's empowerment, and SDG 12, that is on sustainable consumption and production. And like I said, do not worry, because our panel today will help us understand more on the same. And I have with me from my immediate left, Elizabeth Obanda, who's a team lead, UN Women Economic Empowerment Unit right here in the country. Good to have you this morning. How are you doing?
Asante sana.
Thank you so much for making the time to join us this morning. We also have Eric Korir, who's the Director of Public Procurement from the National Treasury. Good to have you this morning, sir.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Thank you.
Karibu sana. And we also have Kellen Sanau, who is a Raw Packaging Materials Category Manager from Bamburi Cement PLC. Good to have you this morning.
Thank you so much for
having me. Let me tell you, the titles. But thank you so much for making the time. I really love the colors on set today.
Thank you.
Right from Monday morning, there's no Monday blues. I know I'm dressed in blue, but no Monday blues. Right?
Yes, yes.
And Elizabeth, allow me to start with you. So gender responsive procurement, what exactly are we talking about? And even the statement that I read that says, procurement plays a very vital role on sustainable development and, again, gender equality. So gender responsive procurement. What exactly are we talking about? And why does it matter in the 16 days of activism?
Yeah, first of all, why does it matter? Procurement alone, before you talk about gender responsive procurement, drives financial flows. Huge financial flows.
Okay.
And therefore, by extension, reduces vulnerabilities for women.
All right.
You know?
I see.
So gender responsive procurement is procurement that is considering the impact on women. Okay? It's considering the impact on the social and economic, status. So it is procurement that is intentional in terms of inclusion of women in that space. We have been told that globally we have just about women access just about 1% of procurement globally, of the trillions and trillions of dollars that go to procurement. And so it's important that we are intentional about including women in those spaces, but not just in the sense of the economic sense, economic element, but also the social, making sure that the spaces within where the procurement is taking place is safe. And that the standards that are given allow for women's human rights to be expressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why it's also very important that we're having this conversation during the 16 days of activism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like you said, 1%, that is just too concerning. And my question is why? Is it that women do not step into these opportunities? Is it that they don't know? Is it that they don't have? Why?
Yes, so there are many reasons. One, women are multidimensionally poor. In Kenya, 56% of women are considered to be poor. Poor in every way, in terms of income, poor in terms of health, poor in terms of education, poor. And, for you to be involved in procurement, you need to be able to have funds, so that you're able to supply. So that's one of the reasons. Two, it's also around awareness, as you said. How many women are aware that there are opportunities out there? And quite a few women live in the rural areas. Literacy levels are low, so their mobility is also wanting. So they are in a place where it's not possible for them to mingle as much as they should and
okay.
get in, yes,
Okay.
procure and get this opportunity so that they can also engage with the opportunities.
All right.
Yeah.
And Korea, I'm just going to loop you into the same because the access to government procurement opportunities, that is AGPO, most of us know about that. So can we talk about then how this sort of like enables women, because again, like Elizabeth said, 1%, that is too little and we need to change that. So can we understand from the National Treasury how this sort of like try to align and make sure that more women are considered when it comes to procurement?
Thank you very much, and really want to appreciate this discussion this morning. The access to government procurement opportunities is anchored in the provisions of the Public Procurement Asset Disposal Act, and this was in response to the constitutional requirement under Article 227, which required the government to put in place affirmative measures to support the vulnerable in the society. The Constitution recognizes women, youth, and persons with disability, those who are vulnerable. So arising from that, then, there are clear provisions in the Public Procurement Act which requires, among others, that public entities reserve 30% of their procurement budget to these vulnerable. And it is an obligation that every accounting officer in government has to set aside 30% of their budget and reserve this for procurement of goods and services from these categories of women, persons with disability, and youth. So that is what the law has set aside. The National Treasury has further put in place a registration process to ensure seamless registration, because for you to participate in this procurement, first of all, you have to be pre-qualified, you have to be eligible, meeting the requirements that the Constitution puts in place. So you will have a central registration process. Previously, it used to be very manual, but now it is online. Within about 7 hours of submission of your applications, you are able to, if you meet all the requirements, submitting what is required, you are able to have your certification and participate in procurement opportunities. Yes.
All right, I see that. And Kellen, for you, because I know Bamburi, right? It is actually part of women, what's called women empowerment principles, right?
Yes,
You
yes,
support
yes,
that. Can we
yes.
first of all understand women empowerment principles and what are some of these set principles? That again, I want to say Bamburi is so fit to be part of, and then we'll talk about how you do it.
I think the biggest thing for us is we wanted to be able to drive economic empowerment, to diverse groups. These are youth, persons living with disabilities, and women-owned businesses, So we decided that we'll align ourselves so that we can get the support that we can get by aligning ourselves with the UN and see how we can grow from there. What we've done as a company, we're in the building and construction sector, yes? It's hugely male-dominated.
Yes.
So for us to be able to address these issues, we had to be very intentional about it. So what we did is we set for ourselves a target. The same way the government has set a target. We have a 30% target to have our spend on youth, women, and persons living with disabilities. So what we've done is we've changed our policies internally as well to be able to try and address this. As they said, we have issues with women having low access to income. So what we've done is we've reduced the payment term periods from 60 days to 30 days. We work with our bank as well to give them invoice discounting program so that they can be able to be paid earlier and we can be able to support them. So some of those things are what has led us to be able to get to where we are right now. And we're still not at where we want to be, but we are making traction.
I'm curious
now.
Yes, but
I'd like
go
to
ahead.
add my voice to what you
Yes.
said beautifully in terms of what women empowerment principles are. As she said, they have aligned to a UN women program. So women empowerment principles is almost a movement, a global movement. Right now we are at 10,000 companies globally that have signed up to women empowerment principles. In Kenya we're at about 90 to 100 that have signed up to women empowerment principles. And these are a set of 7 principles that companies, sign up to
Right.
from the C-suite, from the highest level, and the company is saying we are committed to gender equality and the empowerment of women. We're going to make sure that men and women alike are treated fairly, that they are given opportunities for employment, that they are given fair opportunities for training, that they are promoted equally, and that Principle 5, which is talking about business, then ensures that there's diversity in suppliers. So that is where you bring in, you know, as she's saying, intentionally bring in women and men. So they have signed up as WEP's principles.
Yeah, absolutely. And still on the same, but again, like you said, the UN Women strives to ensure that all operations, again, like including procurement processes, you know, support its mandate to achieve the gender equality and empower women. Now, my question to you is, so what criteria is used, you know, when it comes to integrating gender equality principles, you know, in all sectors? We have Bamburi here, for example, and the National Treasury as well.
I think, let me go back to say, UN Women is that global entity that is a champion for gender equality and the empowerment of women. In appreciation of the fact that the scales are, you know, not fair,
balanced.
you know, they're not balanced, and that it's important to make sure that women are part and parcel of everything that we do, whether it is leadership, women in peace processes, so that women are sitting there lending their voice, or women economic empowerment, or women are part of conversations that reduce, you know, EVOG, or, you know, what is it? Gender-based violence, you know. So it's important that in everything that you're doing, that you're looking at it from a gender perspective. You're asking yourself, how does this affect men? How does this affect women? How does this affect young people? How does this affect, you know, those people who are living with disabilities? So you're looking at the impacts. You're looking at some of those underlying reasons why, you know, things are happening the way they do. You know, we live in a patriarchal society where once you are born a girl, already you have a place. And when you're born a man, you already have your place, and you come with certain entitlements. So it is being intentional in terms of analysis to look at how does this impact women? How does this impact men? How do we address those issues? Traditions, for instance, that might limit women's participation. Like, you know, early marriages, for instance, that might limit women's participation. Our stereotypes around the role of women in business, or, you know, so it's just being intentional and therefore analyzing, understanding, and mainstreaming. And sometimes it means affirmative action.
Absolutely. You know? I mean, we were talking about this before we came on air, and said there's this bias towards the term gender in itself, because the minute you mention gender, all of us go towards.
So now, let me explain that gender really is about relation. It is relational. It is relational between men and women, and it comes with power. And it's how that power is utilized that either disenfranchises women and empowers men. So it's a power play thing. So it's not men and women is sex. It's about sex, not gender. So gender is relational. It's about power. How do you utilize this power? Do you put other people down, or do you put, you know, do you make sure that everybody
uplift each other?
Yes.
I really like that. I think it's time, and I want to like put a pin on that. You know, when you think about gender, think about relation, right?
Of power. And how that power is utilized.
I really like that.
To hurt others, or to enable them.
I really like that. And speaking of enabling, Corinne, would you say women know that there's this provision? You know, like you said, 30%, you know, of the budget is reserved for women. Do they know? And what is it that you're doing to just make sure that as many women are aware?
That is a very good question. And these opportunities has been made available by the law, but regrettably, that is not the case. I would say, I think the majority of the people, the women who do business with government are probably those who are based in urban centers. But you look at the bulk majority, probably about 80% of our women who are upcountry. Well, they have very limited information about these opportunities. But we have partnered with various stakeholders, working together with the UN Women, for example, to build capacity across the country. But this calls for a lot of concerted effort because this is a very huge constituency.
Yeah.
You can imagine the 80% of our women, ladies out there in the upcountry.
Yeah.
So it is a huge task that calls for a lot of concerted efforts between the stakeholders, the leadership, and perhaps every other person, the stakeholders in the industry, so that this information is able to get to the women.
I see that. And Kellen, for you, again, like you said, working in the predominantly male-dominated field, what is it that you've noticed, either when it comes to opportunities, first of all, and access to opportunities? Do women, first of all, even know that there are these opportunities for them? And what is it they're saying?
So I'll take it from our experience.
Okay. Yes.
Once we signed up with UN, what we did is we joined an organization, IFC. They have a source to equal program, which has really helped us. Right. What this has done, it has facilitated for us to have trainings all over the country, and both virtually and in-person trainings. Right. Okay. Because we noticed they do not know, women do not know that there are these opportunities for them. The youth, people living with disabilities, they are not aware. Right. So what do? We go and train. We train them about the opportunities that are available, how to reach us. We've literally opened our whole spend to this to the community, right, so that they can be able to interact with us, they can be able to find their niche and trade with us. So this is what we've been doing. We've done a Nairobi chapter, we've done a Mombasa chapter. We have put adverts on the newspapers. Right. We have updated our website, and we tell them in training. So what we've noticed, we've managed to reach over 1,000 women-owned businesses just through these trainings in the past 1 year. Okay. So this has been very, very informational, because the thing is, we need to get the information out there. Yeah. Yes.
All right. Yes. And what is it that woman who's watching us and maybe interacting with Kellen today for the first time, what is that they need to know about the procurement process? Because there's this narrative out here that, hey, procurement processes, especially with GAVA, and I'm going to throw that to Corinne in a second, but to you know, like what is that process like, and what are some of the, I'd say, services that as Bamburi sort of like you accept? Because probably there's someone who's watching us, they might be of benefit to you, but they don't know.
But they do not know. Yeah. Yes. So let me talk about the opportunities that are there first. We have raw materials. This is supply of things like pozzolana, bauxite, gypsum. We have equipment and consumables. This covers everything from bearings to hardware items, electrical items. We have production services, engineering services. Yes. What else do we have? We have mining, subcontracting mining. We also have general services, IT services. You see, so there's a lot, consultancy, trainings. So we've opened up all this, so anyone can bid for any one of them. We put our tenders, we float our tenders out there. We also send requests for quotations. So what we do is we ask them to interact with us, send us an email, give us your company profile, then we reach out to you. But what has really helped is having one person who actually interacts with these people, a point of contact. It is very, very important for businesses to have a point of contact, because who are they addressing? You see, once you have this person who's aggregating this data, they're able to talk to these people, they're able to address their concerns, and whenever an opportunity arises, we make sure that they're not lost in, they're not lost
somewhere in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And just pick up from what Kellen has said. For us in government, for you to be a woman-led company, the shareholding of because for you to do business with government, first of all, you have to have a company, either limited company, partnership, or sole proprietorship. So for you to say, that you're a woman-led company, you have to own over 70% of the shareholding. Okay. Because otherwise, if you don't do that, if you don't put in place that requirement, then every other person will benefit from this.
And register their mom, their grandma,
so
they're
you
not
just have
the
person, the 70% majority shareholding has to be women. And we even go further to ensure that the account, in your bank account, which the money will ultimately be remitted to, one of the persons signatory to that bank account is a lady. So those are the measures that we put in place. And then therefore you are able to transact. And from time to time, when there are opportunities in government, ministries, departments, and agencies, we say this opportunity is reserved for women,
Okay.
women category,
All right.
where the women-led companies are able to compete amongst themselves, and
yes.
therefore we do not lose the ultimate objective again of getting value for money.
I see that.
Yeah.
I see that. All
The,
right.
the fear normally is that women might just be fronted.
Right.
But actually the decision maker, the ones who are controlling the resources are men. So I think it's very important that you look at that element. And that's why for us, gender responsive also looks at the social, looks at who is making decisions, who is in control, and therefore even thinking about the capacity of the person, the agency of the person to be able to do the business.
I see that. So from a UN standpoint, what is it that you've noticed in terms of what needs to be done? First of all, where we are at, because I was reading and they said the world is not on track to achieve the gender equality by 2030. So, and we're 5 years short, right, to 2030. So where are we? What are some of the areas that we're sort of like lagging behind that needs more support? And then we'll come back later on and say, so what are some of the areas that you and women feels, say, like different entities, institutions, and even general public need to be supported in a certain way? But where are we? What are some of these gaps?
Yeah, depending on what studies you read, of course, it is clear that there's not been an attainment of gender equality and the empowerment of women, and we are not on track to achieve that by 2030.
Yes.
And I think largely because there's not been sustainable development, and that means that there's not been adequate inclusion of those that are being left behind, where those that are being left behind, as he said, include youth, include persons with a disability, include women, but include also men who are vulnerable. So the fact that the approaches that we have used over time have not been inclusive is one reason why we are not on track to gender equality and the empowerment of women. There's also been a pushback on, as you said, immediately you say gender, people say, oh,
women, here they go again.
Yes. There they go again. There's also a feeling that there's not been adequate participation of men. The men inclusion has not been adequate, that now the men are not part of the process, but on the other hand, you're being told we are over-empowering women and leaving men behind, So I think, and then also the issues around partnership. You cannot have one institution move this needle forward. You need all these institutions, working together, addressing different elements, whether they are elements to do with, financial literacy or procurement or literacy or, peace processes. All those things come together. Then we live in a world where climate is changing, and the impacts of climate have been terrible. So when they are flooding, they destroy everything, then people start afresh. Then when there's drought, then, so we live in a very fickle world, and all these things come together to worsen the issues around gender equality and the empowerment of women. The other time we had COVID, and it was terrible. The gender-based violence spiked, and families lost livelihoods and lost jobs, and all these things, again, of course, contribute. So I think there are many things that contribute to
where we are,
more or less widening
of
there's also been a study recently conducted which shows that there's a pay gap. There's a gender gap in pay. That for every 100 shillings that a man earns, a woman earns 89. And you're wondering, why is that so? Is there a premium on being a man, and is there a penalty on being a mother? Okay, because there is also that element that there's a penalty on being a mother, because once you're a mother, then you have other things that you consider, and you're not able to focus entirely on the economic space.
We were having a discussion, I think just within the office or here on set, I can't remember very well, and someone said the fact that you are born a girl in itself, it's a risk on so many levels, which ideally shouldn't be the case. In an ideal world, it shouldn't be the case. There should be that equality. But then again, the reality is that is what is happening. And that is why we have like these different entities and different conversations to just drive the point and say, hey, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or you are a woman, equality is at the center of it all.
Quite interesting. Based on the, this access to government procurement opportunities has been in place for slightly over 10 years now. And based on the data that we receive as National Treasury, I think in the last 10, 11 years, government has contracted out goods and services to a sum of about 273 billion. And that is based on the data we have as National Treasury. And of these 273 billion, women-led companies have benefited the tune of 145 billion. Actually, it's the leading among us the affirmative group of women, youth, and persons with disability. So I think we're fairly doing well.
We're somewhere. But what is the ideal? What is the ideal, Elizabeth?
No.
Yeah.
I was just saying that the last time we had conversations in his office, women of the 30%, women were at 52%. So now there's concern that already women at 52%, where are the youth and where are persons with disabilities? So it was like, UN Women is pushing the women agenda too much. So, but still that is only 17%. I think in total is 17% of the 30%.
Absolutely.
So there's still a gap, for us to be able to reach the 30% and exceed it. And benefit from this other 70%.
Right?
Yeah, why not?
That is left. Okay, all right. You want to?
Yes, I actually wanted to add, even for us, since we started doing the trainings and people became aware, we have managed to grow our spend from 978 million to 1.29 billion as at end of last year. And as at half year this year, we are at 614 million. So the awareness is working. But as he said, also the bigger chunk is going to the women-owned businesses. Yes, because reaching probably, you'd find that the sustainability, some youth would start, but they would not continue. Maybe that's what they need to be supported, you understand? So, but so far so good. I think we have a long way to go, but we're getting there, definitely.
There. I like that. Can we take a break on that hopeful note? And then when we come back, then we'd want to understand, so fine, we understand where we are at, but what are some of the steps that we need to take to make sure that we get to where we want to be? Because 2030, like I said, is not too far. We only have 5 years. Short and 5 years is very short, okay? But if you have a question to any of my panelists this morning, send them our way, and that is at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Bini. So there's so much to come on the other side of the break. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. 32 minutes past the hour, and the show is Your World. So much to discuss based on our conversation this morning on, yes, still on 16 days of activism, but we're focusing on gender-responsive procurement, which, if you missed out on the first part of the conversation, we said gender-responsive procurement is a sustainable selection of services, goods, and works that considers the impact on gender equality that goes beyond cost management. And my panel today, we have Elizabeth Obanda, Team Lead, UN Women's Economic Empowerment Unit right here in Kenya. We also have Eric Korir, who is Director of Public Procurement, National Treasury. Ask him. And we also have Kellen Senau, who's the Raw Packaging Materials Category Manager from Bamburi Cement PLC this morning, helping us understand, first of all, gender-responsive procurement. What is it? Why is it important? And why does it matter? And especially now, where we're talking about 16 days of activism. So, Elizabeth, I'm just going to ask you. So then we've talked about the role, of the UN plays and in terms of supporting all those things. But up until now, what role would you say you have played in supporting gender-responsive procurement within Kenya's public and private sectors?
Yeah, so UN Women takes a more wholesome approach to driving this gender-responsive procurement. So we approach it from the perspective of government, where we work very closely with the Treasury, and Director Korir is here, layering on the access to government procurement, increasing awareness, in the communities, ensuring that women are aware that these opportunities are there, supporting the monitoring so that they have data to be able to report every year. They report on in the economic survey, economic paper, so that there's data helping driving compliance by making sure that the procurement officers, or the demand side, is improved or strengthened. So ensuring that the procurement officers are trained, that they are able to comply, that they know that they're supposed to set aside these opportunities for this category of people. Part of what we've done, we've worked with the Council of Governors to develop a simplified bidders manual, and we have been working with this team to try and ensure that women have access to this simplified bidders manual. We have contributed to knowledge management. Okay, we have done some assessments or studies through the University of Nairobi to help us understand what the challenges are that women are facing, and try and see how we can solve these challenges, including these issues around access to finance. Some of the women will say, "Oh, but I cannot supply because I don't have money." So part of the role that we do then is link to financial institutions. So that is from a government perspective or a public procurement perspective. But we also then work very closely with private sector, such as Bamburi, to make sure that they are able to sign up to women empowerment principles, that they are therefore committed to practices that foster gender equality and empowerment of women, including this supplier diversity, including products that enable women to supply. So if, for instance, if you're a company, private sector or bank that has financial products, then you are looking at how you are able to loan this money without putting barriers such as collateral that women don't have access to. So just ensuring that the private sector also are aware and sign up to women empowerment principles, and that what Bamburi has said, by extension, therefore they are able to open up their systems and make sure that very many women are able to supply. And on the third one then is looking at the UN. UN is huge, okay? And as an entity that procures services and goods, and it's huge. And so just within the UN system also making sure that all these agencies that are aware that it's important to be intentional around including women, so there's a unit within the UN Women that is led by UN Women that is helping the entities understand what gender responsive procurement is. It's all about. Is all about, and making sure that within their databases they also include women. So I think we are trying to do our very best in terms of moving this conversation forward, and even meeting the women. We meet the women all over the place and speak to them, and just help them understand that these opportunities, both in private sector, within the UN Women, and in government. So that is the role that we have been playing.
I see that.
Just picking up from Elizabeth's issue, I think the main challenge actually facing this program is access to financing. One of the challenges that women entrepreneurs are experiencing is once they even get a government contract, are they able to finance it? So that is an area that we really need to put a lot of effort on the part of government. Government has come up with various funds to support this. But even then, the resources are limited. We have the Women Fund that is geared towards supporting women entrepreneurs. We have the Youth Fund. Of course, there is also the Credit Guarantee Scheme with an initial kitty of about 3 billion that the government is working with the banking industry to enable that entrepreneurs and more specifically women are able to access these resources. Of course, again, the Hustler Fund just come in. So all these are geared towards supporting. But still that resource, that fund is not sufficient. We need other private sector players to come on board.
I also got to ask you, hey, Sister, where do we go? Do we also involve like private sector and all those things?
Also piggyback on that. As I had mentioned earlier, as Bamburi, we have a 30-day payment term period for women-owned businesses, youth and persons living with disabilities. So the minute they give us their invoice, we're able to pay them within 30 days. And in addition to that, we also have an invoice discounting program where they are eligible to join as soon as we onboard them. This enables them, even within the 30 days, they can still get at a very small fee. They can be able to get their payment even within a week. And the working capital is a very big issue, especially in this economy. Once you give them that working capital, once they have that financing backing, they're able to work with you. They're able to even support you more. For instance, we have one lady-owned business. We onboarded her for raw materials. She was doing one raw material. Right now, she's doing 3 raw materials. And she comes all the way from Garissa. So such opportunities and such, such good stories encourage us to be able to even, onboard more women and even just tell them that this is possible for you.
Yes. And again, like we said, awareness is key. There's one thing to have like some of these policies set aside, but also another for these people to know that there's said policies.
So there is awareness, but do you see there's a certain level of confidence that is needed for somebody to be able to walk there? You know, certain
this is
confidence,
what I have.
urgency, the ability to do things. And I think for you and women, that's very important. It's not just about the technical things, it's the soft things. How do you drive the soft things? How do you make sure that this person as a whole is able to do what they're supposed to do? So that element for us within the UN
and even
is
like
very
just
important.
change of like attitude, because again, like when we started the conversation, we said sometimes there are these opportunities, but people don't know that they're not that they don't know, they have this negative attitude towards it, like you're to a specific set group of people, or this is only for men, kids for Baburi with like male domination, all those things. And Corey, then how would you say, for example, like the AGPO program has transformed, the lives of women, and and especially when it comes to participation in public procurement? How would you say it has transformed women? I think you alluded to it a little bit earlier on, but
Yes, I did mention about out of the 273 billion that government has contracted out in the last 10 years or so, 145 billion has gone to the women.
The women,
And of course, this has definitely empowered them economically. And they say when you empower a lady, you empower a nation. So there's no doubt that this economic empowerment has trickled down to the children, and more people going to children going to school, and even women taking up leadership positions in government today. Because to take up an elective position, you have to have some resources. So this has gone a long way.
I see that. And so then what are some of the steps that you have taken as National Treasury just to make sure that you strengthen the global resilience partnership and also expand its impact?
Well, first of all, we have a role as National Treasury to really facilitate this affirmative program. We have the legal framework has been laid out, quite comprehensive, providing for people who should participate, who qualifies to participate, what are the timelines within which these women contractors are supposed to be paid. The law has provided that at minimum 60 days, at maximum rather, they should be paid within 60 days. Besides that, for you to participate, I talked about a pre-qualification process that National Treasury has to undertake. Previously, I said it used to be manual process. You had people coming from far-flung region, from Lamu, coming to queue the National Treasury to get that certification. That is not the case anymore. Right now, at the comfort of your desk, wherever you are in the country, you submit your application. When you meet the criteria, you are able to get your certification within 7 hours. Very critical, again, is the training component that I talked about. We try as much as possible. It is part of the performance contracting now in government that each ministry, department, and agency has to demonstrate the kind of training they have undertaken with these affirmative groups. This will go a long way in encouraging and getting them to participate in government contracts. Again, National Treasury and the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, that is the authority charged with regulating the procurement field in government, have an obligation under the law to report to Parliament every 6 months on the performance of this program. With this kind of reporting, then Parliament are able to put in place, interventions and review the policies to ensure that the program really succeeds and targets meets the targets. It gets to support the targeted people. So those are some of the measures National Treasury has put in place.
I'm just thinking, I don't know that you mentioned the issues around Huduma Center. Because part of the problem with women is this mobility, and again, as we said, low literacy and maybe inability to access your own ICT equipment. So the ability that comes with, you know, the opportunities that comes with the devolution to be able to walk into the local, Huduma Center.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. We have about 150 Huduma centers across the country.
Okay.
And this, we have an ACPO desk on every Huduma center where they can get information, learn how do you do business with government, basic information. And that way, that confidence is built with,
Yeah, I mean, like Elizabeth said, walking there with confidence, saying this is what I have and this is what I can deliver. Right, and Elizabeth, so then as you went, what do you, you and women, what do you envision then through this project? You know, what we're talking about, gender responsive procurement. What is it that you envision to achieve?
So there's the gender responsive procurement generally, but also part of the reason why we are here is a pre-launch of a program that will be launched on the 4th. And UN Women has a strategic partnership with the UAE, with the United Arab Emirates around accelerating gender equality and empowerment of women through gender responsive procurement. And as I said, gender responsive procurement does drive financial flows. I mean, look around since devolution, and people you knew who could barely feed themselves are now, you know, very wealthy. So procurement really is key in terms of economic empowerment. And so part of what we want is, again, as we said, accelerate gender equality and the empowerment of women. We want to be able to reach more women with awareness around the opportunities that are there inherent within government, within private sector such as Bamburi or Safaricom or other institutions, and the UN, you know, so that's one. We also want to drive compliance by government procurement officers to ACPO, you know, so that people are aware that they're supposed to set this aside and they're supposed to monitor. That's very, very important for us. The other thing that we want to do is link women to markets, okay? Because this program will also be looking at the opportunities for markets. There's a lot of conversation around free trade, you know, in Africa, the African free trade. And so most of the women are not aware that these opportunities are there. So we want to try, through this program, to try and link them to the markets, looking at issues around financial literacy or even linkage to finances. And with the partnership that we have with the companies that are signed up as WEPs companies, and trying to influence their practices, internal practices, so that their practices are transformative of gender. So this program, is just looking to enhance what we've been doing. We've been doing gender responsive procurement in a small way, but I think we want to do it in a big way. We want to reach as many counties in Kenya as possible. This year, we partnered with the Kenya Institute of Supply Management to train over 300 women, you know, bring them together, you know, working with the gender, with the Office of the President as advisor on gender, KISM, Kenya Institute of Supply Management. So we want to do more and make sure that more women are aware, more women are applying for these procurement opportunities in all these 3 institutions and are getting this money, that they have money in their pockets, that the vulnerabilities are reduced, because there is a certain power that emanates from having resources. Okay? That if you are unfortunate to be related to people who are abusive, then you don't have to go back to them to say, please, nipatie pesa ya
because
chumvi.
you don't have anywhere to go.
So there'll be some, you know, financial autonomy or economic autonomy. So really, for us, it's about sustainable societies, resilient societies, peaceful societies, but societies where there's autonomy, where people are enjoying their human rights. So really, that's what we
I really
aim to
like
do.
that. Because it's full circle. It's not just, we're not just talking about gender-based violence as, you know, in isolation, because the impact covers, you know,
it is linked to many things.
Many things. I really like that.
The ability to speak, the ability to be a leader, to be sitting at the tables, to be a decision maker, to have your own money in your pocket, to be part of these peace processes, you know, all those things come together.
Covers across. All right. And Karen, for you, so then I know we've touched a little bit on some of the challenges the private sector, you know, experiences, and especially, you know, when we're talking about adopting gender responsive procurement, but are there others that maybe you want to touch on, and then how do we overcome them?
I think the first thing that we see, that we have seen as a challenge is having this to overcome the systemic hurdles that are there, limiting gender responsive procurement. We find that the tone has to come from the top. We have to have a target. We have to put it in our strategy and put it in our operations. So what we've done is have a target, have a year that you want to achieve this target, track this target. Once you're able to do that and you set the tone at the top, you're able to address this, because then it becomes a culture. It becomes a conversation that you're always having. You start tracking them through KPIs, and this way you'll be able to see what's working, what's not working. I think that's one of the things I've seen. Another thing I've seen is just how do you reach these women and how do you support them once you already have them in the system. Some of them might supply you and then they disappear. Why did they do that? How can you address this? So just having this type of conversations, trying to guide, because what I've noticed is most women are very eager to work with you, but once they start seeing there's a lot of bureaucracy, maybe the documentations they do not have. I'm sure some of them, they need just time to be guided. You just need to take time, guide them, show them that this is something that you can do, and grow them from there. Once you start dealing with a woman who's supplying one thing, maybe just to grow her, show how you can move from here to do something else. You just don't have to do printing papers. You can move to another service. So I think those are some of the things that I've seen that we need to work towards.
And all these opportunities are there.
They are there.
We need to tap into them. All right. Encourage that
confidence to walk there.
Confidence to walk there. I really like that. So then, how would you say, the whole conversation about gender responsive procurement, how would you say it contributes to then Kenya's broader, economic growth, and especially when we're talking about gender equality goals?
Well, of course, like Elizabeth has said, empowering once you have that economic and financial empowerment, you're able to venture into so many other realms. Your level of confidence go high up. You're able to take up other leadership positions in government or even in the private sector. But largely, of course, gender responsive procurement is in line with the broader sustainable development goals, where we envisage to have, a better life by 2030.
2030, yes.
Yeah, so that social component of it, making sure that women are empowered, is very critical towards making sure that the sustainable development goal is achieved.
Okay, I see that. And Elizabeth, so as we head towards 2030, and like we said earlier on, there's more that needs to be done. So we've done, I want to say, be fair and say fairly okay, but there's still so much that needs to be done. So for us to attain, and like we said, SDG 5 and 12, right? So what more needs to be done? And as UN women, where do you want us to go from here?
I think what we want is that people are intentional. Government has policies in place. What is needed is compliance. And awareness so that people are able to tap into those opportunities. We have private sector and we have guidelines that support private sector to be able to incorporate gender equality and empowerment of women. We would like more private sector companies to be able to tap into the webs, the opportunities for webs, to be part of this movement that is saying, look, for us, we want to be fair, we want to be equal, we want to provide equal opportunities. We're not saying anything about sameness. Men and women will never be the same. That is not it. It's about the opportunities, making sure that people have equal opportunities. That if I have a daughter and a son, that both of them have equal opportunities to go to school. You get? Yeah. So I think that is the point, that we are intentional about being inclusive of everybody. All the different voices are at the table and that they are served equally. If people are living with disability, how can they be supported to be part of the economic space? What are some of those products that we need to think about intentionally that would help them to overcome the disabilities that they have so that they can tap into this opportunity? If women are vulnerable, and they are vulnerable, as I said, they're multidimensionally poor, what can we do? I know government has, I think, a program around unbundling, I think. I think that's what you call it. So that if the tender is big and they're not able to tap into that tender. That is broken, so that a woman is able to, or a youth is able to supply. So it's about being intentional, it's about being inclusive, it's about tracking, as she said, so that we know where we are at. It's having this data that is gender disaggregated. If you just say people, how do you know which people? So you need to know, which category of people you are dealing with, which ones are being left behind, and you don't want anybody to be left behind, because if other people are left behind, we can never really attain sustainable development. I see that. So that is the point.
I really like that. We do not want to leave no one behind. Absolutely not. All right, and Kellen, as we bring this to a close, so then what advice would you give to, let's say, any private sector who's probably watching us this morning, and they're thinking of ways that they can leverage into gender-responsive procurement? What advice would you have for them?
First thing I would say is no man is an island, You learn from other organizations. What has really helped is through IFC's Source to Equal program, we were able to partner with other companies. We're able to pick best practices, what is working for them, can we inculcate it into our strategies. So as we walk the talk, let's do it together, because if we do it together, we're able to even share our supplier database. Maybe you can refer a supplier from one company to another. You have the same type of services. That's how we can empower each other. That's one thing. You can also work, Strathmore Business School and We Connect, also have support a lot of women entrepreneurs. So if you can partner with them, do the training, be able to reach out to as many women own businesses, as many diverse groups as possible. Do the trainings, go out there, partner with others. That's the best way you can be able to reach and even grow your spend with this type of, with the diverse groups.
I see that. Corey, very quickly, like 30 seconds.
Yes, I think what I want to say is that government has put in place an elaborate framework within which women and youth and persons with disability are able to transact with government. I think the issue right now, the gap is the information gap is what we are lacking. And this calls for a lot of concerted effort from all the stakeholders, not only government. We endeavor to do that through the Huduma Centers, through capacity building with partnership with the UN, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, but that is still not sufficient. We want to call upon everybody, even including the media, to really help send out this information.
I see that.
Thank
All right,
you.
Elizabeth, 10 seconds. They have stolen your 20 to just bring this to a close.
No, I just want to say that let us be intentional. Let us take the root of gender equality and the empowerment of women. That is the only way that these other 52% are sitting at the table, that their voice is heard, that they're giving alternative ways of doing things. And of course, we said, and we have said always, that if you empower women, then they are less vulnerable. They are less vulnerable to gender-based violence, but also you are empowering a whole community. Our children will be able to go to school, they'll be fed. Our husbands will feel less burdened.
Yes.
Yeah, they will.
Like the conversation now is, what are you bringing to the table?
Yes.
To empower them so that they have something
they will also
to bring
feel
to
less
the
burdened.
table.
So everybody will have, you know, it's better to, somebody said, don't kick a ball with one leg, you know. So we'll have both legs at the table on the field.
I like that. And what a way to end the conversation. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Elizabeth Amanda, Team Lead, UN Women Economic Empowerment Unit Kenya. Oh my
To her, happy birthday, dear Winnie. Happy birthday to
Why?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Oh my day, why?
Beautiful.
Why are you like, now I want to cry. Why are you like that? This is my producer, Mabel. Mabel. Thank you so much. I am shaking. Do you guys want to help me do this? I didn't even say thank you to all my days. Yes, a girl was born today.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Oh my days. Okay. Do you want to help me do this? Oh my days. Oh, now what do I do? Do I say goodbye? Do I say welcome? Let's have a cake together. Do I say thank you to all of you? But thank you. Oh my days. Thank you so much for coming.
Many more beautiful years to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh my days. Okay. All right. I am held here, but let me just. Oh, I am shaking. I don't even know what to do. Oh,
it's a good surprise.
This is such a good surprise. And for a Monday morning. Oh, my
Good beginning to the
days.
week.
Thank you. Oh, wow.
What a way to start the new month.
Oh, yes. What a way to start. Okay, I think I'm just going to say goodbye to you guys as we cut and enjoy this cake. I am shaking. My brain is all over the place. I don't even know what to do with myself. But thank you so much for watching up until this far. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Again, special thanks to all of you for coming by today. The conversation continues online on our socials, and that is at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X. Goodbye. Have yourselves a lovely day ahead. I'll see you tomorrow. My brain is all over the place. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.